Hello guys, here we are, day 4 of the Wellbeing Essentials, and we are talking about how to grow yourself. So yesterday I introduced the idea of the importance of congruence and alignment, and how important it is that your values and your identity and your strengths are incorporated into your behaviours. Now we're going to build on that by today talking about your behaviours in more detail. So what is behaviour? Well, really briefly, it is the actions that result from the conscious and unconscious choices that you make. In the health and fitness industry, we tend to talk about behaviours in the context of your goals and your priorities. So goals are targets that are designed to move you from one place to another. They're designed to motivate change and try and create that change. Your priorities are the choices and the decisions that actually shape that change. Okay, they have a huge influence on how quickly and effectively you move from A to B. And then your behaviours, as we've said, are the actions that result from those choices, and those are the things that actually cause the change to happen. Now, as a coach, in a real nutshell, my job is to try and optimise these concepts. The idea is that I help you to prioritise the right behaviours in order to move towards your goals as quickly and effectively as possible. Simple, and to be honest it's a simple concept, but that doesn't mean it's easy. Like a lot of this stuff's simple, but it's not easy. In today's world, making the right choices and carrying out the right behaviours is incredibly difficult. We are surrounded by information, we are surrounded by opportunity, and we are surrounded by endless temptation. This all means that our priorities and our choices and decisions and behaviours are put under constant pressure. They're challenged constantly. We've talked about challenge a lot, but they're challenged constantly. And this can make it very difficult for you to make the right behaviours and to actually move towards your goals as quickly and effectively as you like to. You tend to end up having detours and going up and down. And what happens is, as soon as you start a bit of a downward spiral, it becomes a vicious cycle and you start moving further and further away from your goals. So why is it so hard? Aside from the obvious temptation, why is it so difficult to make the right choices? Well, in 2004, an American professor called Barry Schwartz wrote a book called The Paradox of Choice: Why More is Less. In his book, Schwartz explains how our dogmatic desire for freedom and opportunity creates this culture of abundance, and that in turn robs us of satisfaction. Now, I've put a link underneath to a TED talk that Schwartz did a number of years ago that explains the book really well. It's 20 minutes long, but he's a really great speaker, and it's a really good watch, so I really encourage you to have a look at it. But just in case you haven't got time, I'm going to summarise it very briefly for you. So what Schwartz suggests is that this massive abundance of choice causes two things to happen. Firstly, it causes paralysis. So because of all of the information, because of all of the options and all the choices and decisions that we have to make, we reach this point that we don't know what to do, and so we don't do anything. We just stop making decisions. Secondly, that when we do make a decision, if we are able to, that we suffer less value and less enjoyment from that decision, because the process is so exhausting, but also we're constantly thinking about the other options. We're constantly thinking about the things that we haven't chosen. So this world of excess, this immense amount of option and choice available to us, essentially causes misery. And this misery shows itself in 4 main ways. Firstly, is regret or anticipated regret. So we regret the fact we've had to make a decision, but then we regret the things that we've not been able to choose. Secondly, we have this opportunity cost, or these opportunity costs. There are things that we've not been able to choose. You can only choose one, and so it means there are loads of others out there you haven't been able to choose, so you regret the fact you can't have them, and you think about them constantly. Thirdly, we experience this escalation of expectation. So because there are so many things out there, we assume that then we must be able to find the perfect version for us, the perfect option for us. So our expectation goes through the roof. And then when we find that actually we haven't found the perfect option, it's not quite right, we experience self-blame. So we say, well, we've had all of these options, I've still managed to find one that isn't right for me, it's my fault, I've messed up, I've cocked up. So all in, these things cause this feeling of misery in us. Now, what does that actually mean for us here and now from a health and fitness and a well-being point of view? Well, Schwartz suggests everybody needs a fishbowl. What he suggests is that we need to create a world where we start to minimise and reduce the options that are open to us, because this makes it much easier for us to make decisions, and it makes the result of those decisions much more worthwhile. So for you need to create a fishbowl. You need to start thinking about creating your fishbowl that is going to allow you to start prioritising the right behaviours that allow you to move most effectively and most quickly towards your goals. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the only real way to do that, funnily enough, following on from the last few days, is to create a world that concentrates on what you really want, who you really are, what really matters to you. Choice becomes so much easier when it reflects the real you. All of a sudden, you actually don't really have any choices to make. They start to make themselves. Seriously. You'll start to find that when you're chasing things that really matter to you, that they're coming from deep inside you, the choices start to make themselves. Because you're being true to yourself, you'll find that it leads to minimal regret. You stop thinking about the opportunity costs. Yes, there are loads of options out there, but most of them aren't right for you, so you don't think about them anymore. Okay, and then once you've created your fishbowl, you need to reinforce it. And this is where the strengths come from that we were talking about yesterday. So you build a world that is focused on and reflects all of your strengths. So to help put this all into practice and into perspective, you've got another task to do today. Ideally, start off by watching the TED Talk by Barry Schwartz below and use it to help understand how this culture of abundance makes choice really difficult for us and how it can ultimately be really unfulfilling. Then think about congruence and alignment and how important your values and your identity and your strengths are for making good choices and effective behaviours. And then think about how embracing your strengths can really reinforce those behaviours and move you towards your goals as effectively as possible. Then once you've done that, I want you to write out your long-term goal. So like you were thinking about with the 5 whys task, why is you're really here? Write that down. Why are you really here? What is it that you really want to achieve? Well, then once you've done that, try and make sure that that goal actually reflects who you are, what matters to you. Try and make sure that it takes into account your strengths so that you can then start to think about how you're going to prioritise the right behaviours. Okay, how you're going to choose and decide which behaviour is going to use to move you towards your goals. Now tomorrow we are going to move this on one last step. One last step, we're going to be talking about this, and we're going to be shrinking your long-term goals into small daily action steps. Okay, tomorrow it is all going to come together and everything that we've been talking about is suddenly going to make sense and it's suddenly going to become very real. Okay, it's going to be good. Any issues in the meantime, any questions or reflections on today's task, then by all means get in touch, but otherwise I shall see you tomorrow. Take care, guys.